Hey guys, in this month's Historical Fiction 101, I'm going to be talking about historical accuracy. Okay, before I totally get going with this discussion, the topic of historical accuracy can get pretty heated amongst fans of historical fiction. So a disclaimer here at the beginning of this video. This whole video is my opinion on historical accuracy. I cannot stress that enough. This is my opinion, and I am entitled to my opinion. So yes, in the comments below, you all are perfectly entitled to your opinions about historical accuracy as well. And I definitely want to start up a discussion here, a civilized discussion, and I would like to know your thoughts on the nature of historical accuracy. How much or how little of accuracy do you want in your historical fiction? And once again, my opinion. This does not go for every single person who reads historical fiction. So let me just start off about me and my feelings about historical fiction. Historical fiction, the genre, for me is all about entertainment value in some ways. You know, historical fiction is a gateway for me to learn about something new, someone new. You know what I mean? It's just a gateway that opens up for me to explore other worlds and other historical figures that I do not know about. I am not a historical professor. I am not a historical scholar. I am not a historian, you know, doing research. Historical fiction is just entertainment for me and a gateway and a way to spark my interest. I can't stress that enough. I wish I had taken the time to collect some books that I felt were way too historically accurate, because for me personally, when a book has too much accuracy, a lot of times I find myself very bored. Because if I'm bored while reading your historical fiction book, that's not a good thing, you know? Because that means your book just sounds like a nonfiction book or a textbook that I'm reading for a class. So that finally leads me into the point of this video. Obviously, you don't want anachronisms in your book. You know, when you're reading historical fiction, you want everything in the book to be believable. That's the point. You want it to be believable. And yeah, you can't be reading a book about like Henry VIII or something and he's watching a football game. Yes, that is definitely wrong. You don't want someone in your historical fiction to be wearing a wristwatch when it hadn't even been invented yet. You know, things like that. You have to work within the confines of what has already been invented. So let's move into the discussion on an author taking historic liberties. I think this is the point in the conversation when things can get kind of heated between people, because I think a lot of people have different opinions on an author taking liberties. For me personally, I prefer an author to take historic liberties as long as it works in what they're trying to accomplish with their historic piece. Like I said, I don't want to read a book that sounds like I'm reading nonfiction or I'm reading a textbook. If I wanted to read nonfiction or a textbook, I would go pick those up. When I'm reading historical fiction, I want to see something to it. I want to see something more to it. I want things to be spiced up a bit, make history exciting. Now, some might say, well, that's just a means of romanticizing history. Well, fine then. I am the type of reader, I much rather read historical fiction that kind of romanticizes a period, because at least that is exciting to me. You know, it's not dull. I am willing to accept an author who takes chances with historic liberties. Now, at the same time though, you don't want an author who takes too many liberties with history. If an author takes too many liberties, then that's when the book, you can notice those liberties. Does that make sense? You will be able to pick up on those little details and not buy it. So yeah, taking liberties with history in historical fiction, it's a very fine line. I mean, you have to be a very talented historical fiction writer in order to pull this off, in my opinion. Because like I said, I appreciate a writer taking chances with history, you know? All in the name of making history fun and exciting and providing that gateway for you to learn more about that subject matter or that person. But at the same time, you don't want an author to take too many liberties that it's distracting and you're calling bullshit on their material. So this kind of leads me into a little mini discussion on things like steampunk or historical fantasy. Just to give you guys some examples, I really like Gail Carriger's The Parasol Protectorate series. That takes place in Victorian London. But the thing is, everything in that world is steampunkery. You know, if you know what steampunk is, you know what that means. Things being in that world that would not have been invented at that time. But for the sake of that genre, you buy that. You buy the steampunk elements introduced into Victorian London. You accept that even though none of this stuff was invented at the time, it's still perfectly acceptable. And it makes the reading much more fun and entertaining. And then also about historical fantasy. Something I consider historical fantasy would be something like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter by Seth Grahame-Smith. That is taking Abraham Lincoln, going through his entire history from a young man until his assassination. So you get all of that historic detail, and it's all pretty much accurate. But what Seth Grahame-Smith does, he throws in this notion of Abraham Lincoln fighting vampires, which obviously never happened, but for the sake of the book, you buy it because of how it's written. So yeah, things like steampunk and historical fantasy, obviously so inaccurate, but you're willing to suspend your disbelief. So yeah, sometimes I don't understand why are we able to suspend our disbelief about steampunk and historical fantasy, but we can't fully suspend our disbelief with just regular historical fiction. Why does everything in general historical fiction have to be 100% accurate? You know, for me personally, I'm willing to accept a book if it's about 90% accurate, you know? Giving 10% of the book the chance to take some liberties and some freedoms with the source material, and yeah, that 10% to just spice things up for entertainment value. So yeah, you guys, that's it for this video. I hope it makes sense. It makes sense to me. I'm gonna probably edit this video back and be confused about what I'm trying to do with this video, but hopefully you guys understand what I'm trying to get at here. And once again, disclaimer, my opinion about historical fiction. This does not apply to everyone who reads the genre. Everyone who reads this genre has very different opinions. There's the people like me who want a little spice and romanticism to their history, and then there's the people who want the 100% truth, which, me personally, I don't like those books because they're dull and boring and they read like nonfiction, and if a book reads like nonfiction, it's bad in my opinion. So yeah, in the comments below, you guys, please continue this discussion with me down below. I'm very curious to hear other people's opinions. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let's have a civilized conversation down below. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you liked this video, you may like these other videos. Bye guys.